This video is going to serve as a quick recap of some of the methodologies we've discussed in the past couple chapters. Lately, what we've been discussing is how do we make legitimate comparisons between two populations based on sample data. And in chapter 6, we first were introduced to this with a confidence interval. So this was chapter 6.7, I believe. And then we officially looked at the hypothesis testing framework with the 2-sample t-test, and that was all about chapter 7. It was 7.1 to 7.9. But the t-test has these somewhat strict requirements, right? We've got to ensure that both samples are approximately normal, or that their sample size is sufficiently large via the central limit theorem. And we saw what do we do when we cannot meet that quote normality requirement. And that's when we were introduced to the Wilcoxon-Mann-Whitney test in chapter 7.10. Because the Wilcoxon-Mann-Whitney test is non-parametric, it is distribution-free, so it does not have this normality requirement. These were also discussed in deeper detail in some of the lab assignments. In green, I'll write that down. These were labs 7 to 8 for the confidence interval. The t-test was labs 8 and 9, and the Wilcoxon-Mann-Whitney test was just lab 9. Now all of these methods here apply to data that are not paired. Not paired. In chapter 8 is when we started opening the door to paired data. So if we have paired samples to analyze, then we need to use a particular test that accommodates that paired design. Ideally, we use the paired t-test, but it is still a t-test, so it still has those normality requirements, but it applies to the differences, or the number of differences has to be at least 30. Again, central limit theorem coming into play. And we saw, well, what do we do if we cannot meet that requirement? We still have a backup test. This is called the Wilcoxon-Signed-Rank Test. Our methods to make comparisons for paired samples mimicked or mirrored what we did in chapter 7. So this is all about chapter 8 here. This was 8.1 to 8.3. The Wilcoxon-Signed-Rank Test was 8.5. And these both are discussed in lab 10. That's going to do it for our quick recap.